Welcome to today's video on the high income trap and how to escape it. Even with a strong salary, it's easy to live paycheck to paycheck if you don't track every dollar and manage debt strategically. In this video, we'll unpack why high earners stay broke and how to reset your money system to build real wealth. To make this flow smoothly, we'll start with what the trap is, then walk through a concrete action plan, and finally lock it in with practical tools and quick quizzes. Here's the roadmap for today. First, we'll define the high income trap. Next, we'll learn how to audit your budget effectively. Then, we'll set the correct debt payoff order. After that, we'll rethink fixed costs to free up cash flow. Subsequently, we'll build a pay-yourself-first system and an emergency fund. Finally, we'll reinforce learning with a couple of quick quizzes and give you a checklist to implement right away. Before we go further, a quick disclaimer. This content is for educational purposes only and is not personalized financial advice. Your situation may be unique, and you should consult a fiduciary financial advisor or tax professional before making major decisions. With that in place, let's move into what the high income trap actually looks like. The high income trap happens when increases in income are matched or exceeded by increases in spending and fixed costs. First, lifestyle creep raises your baseline expenses. Nicer housing, more subscriptions, premium, everything. Next, high fixed expenses reduce the amount of cash left over after each paycheck. Then, low leftover cash often leads to using credit to fill gaps, which introduces interest and fees. Ultimately, this creates a paycheck-to-paycheck cycle and stress. However, if you install a financial reset plan, you can break the loop and redirect income toward wealth building. Here are common signs you're in the high income trap. First, your savings aren't growing despite strong earnings. Next, your fixed costs consume most of each paycheck. Then, your credit card balances remain stubborn even after making payments. Additionally, you can't account for where a significant portion of your income went, often the last 10 to 20%. Finally, windfalls like raises and bonuses vanish into lifestyle upgrades rather than assets. Now that you can recognize the trap, let's pivot to the reset plan. Here is the financial reset. First, identify the leak by tracking every dollar using a budgeting tool and categorizing expenses to expose hidden spending. Second, attack high-interest revolving debt like credit cards, because eliminating those balances yields the highest immediate return. Third, rethink assets and fixed costs by challenging expensive defaults, such as maintaining multiple vehicles. Selling unnecessary assets both injects cash and lowers monthly burn. Fourth, pay yourself first by contributing enough to capture the full employer retirement match and then building an emergency fund in a high-yield savings account. With the plan outlined, let's visualize your monthly money flow to make execution intuitive. This sequence diagram shows how to route each paycheck. First, your direct deposit hits your account. Next, you automatically pay fixed costs such as rent, utilities, and insurance. Then, you allocate extra toward high-interest debt to accelerate payoff. After that, you pay yourself first by capturing your employer retirement match and sending money to your emergency fund in a high-yield savings account. Finally, you leave controlled amounts for variable spending, like groceries and transportation. As you proceed through the month, review and adjust weekly and send any surplus to your highest priority goals or remaining debt. Now that the flow is clear, let's quantify where your money typically goes. This pie chart illustrates a common pre-reset distribution: housing dominating the budget, transportation and food taking meaningful chunks, and debt payments crowding out savings. Notice that savings may be only 5% before optimization. After the reset, the goal is to shrink variable and fixed costs, eliminate high-interest debt, and lift savings materially. With the big picture shown, let's clarify the correct debt strategy. On the left is the priority strategy. First, aggressively pay down high-interest revolving debts, such as credit cards, because the effective return is equal to the APR you eliminate. Next, focus on the interest rate rather than the balance size. Target the highest APR first, and then roll payments to the next. Meanwhile, always make minimum payments on lower interest loans to preserve liquidity and stability. On the right is the deprioritize strategy. Accelerating low-interest fixed loans is optional and should not come at the expense of your emergency fund. Consider refinancing if rates and fees make it beneficial, and avoid prepayment if it would leave you without a cash buffer. Reassess once high-interest debt is eliminated. Quiz time. Which payoff yields the best immediate risk-free return on your money? Option A, a 19% APR credit card balance. Option B, a 3.5% fixed student loan. Option C, a 4% car loan. Option D, a 0% promotional balance that is still within the introductory period. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is A, the 19% APR credit card balance. Eliminating that interest is equivalent to a guaranteed after-tax return at the same rate, which is difficult to match elsewhere. 0% promotional balances can often be timed for payoff shortly before the promotion ends, assuming no fees or traps. Schedule reminders to avoid reversion to a high rate. Meanwhile, low-interest fixed loans typically remain at minimum payments while you prioritize freeing cash flow and removing expensive debt. Use this table as a starting point to categorize spending and define targets. Housing should ideally sit near 30 to 35%. Transportation should be around 10 to 15%, ideally with a single vehicle and optimized insurance. Groceries can be 8 to 12% with planning. Dining and entertainment should be capped, often between 5 and 8%. Aided by canceling unused subscriptions. Insurance and utilities can be 5 to 10% with regular audits. Debt payments will vary. Keep minimums on low-interest loans while aggressively paying high-interest debt. Savings and investing should be at least enough to capture the employer match and increase as debt falls. Keep a small buffer for miscellaneous expenses and review monthly to adjust. To free cash flow quickly, start with big rocks. First, sell any unnecessary vehicle to remove payments, insurance premiums, and maintenance costs. Next, right-size your housing by negotiating rent at renewal or considering a roommate or house hack. Then, shop insurance across providers and review your mobile plan, potentially moving to a low-cost MVNO. After that, conduct an annual subscription audit to cancel or downgrade underused services. Finally, optimize utilities using a smart thermostat, efficient lighting, and water-saving fixtures. With costs lowered, let's ensure you pay yourself first. Implement pay yourself first through automation. First, adjust your retirement contribution so you capture the full employer match immediately. Next, create an automatic transfer to a high-yield savings account on payday to build your emergency fund. Then, schedule an additional payment to your highest APR debt for the day after payday so it always happens. Finally, control variable spending by using a separate card or envelope system with weekly caps. Now that the system is set, let's confirm how much emergency savings you should aim for. Another quick quiz. What is the typical target size for an emergency fund before investing beyond the employer match? Option A, $500. Option B, 1 month of expenses. Option C, 3 to 6 months of expenses. Option D, 12 months of expenses. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is C, 3 to 6 months of expenses. Store this in a high-yield savings account. Build the first month rapidly for immediate resilience. Then continue to grow towards 6 months if your income is variable, you have dependents, or job security is uncertain. With the safety net defined, let's lock in your next actions with a simple checklist. Use this checklist to implement the reset. First, export the last 90 days of transactions and import them into a budgeting tool. Next, categorize every dollar and compute your fixed versus variable percentages. Then, identify your top 3 spending leaks and set hard caps. After that, adjust your retirement contributions to capture the full employer match. List all debts with balances, APRs, and minimums, and sort them by APR. Automate an extra payment to the highest APR the day after payday. Price and sell any unused vehicle or valuable gear to inject cash and lower ongoing costs. Open a high-yield savings account and automate transfers on payday. Finally, schedule a recurring 30-minute monthly budget review to stay on track. To reinforce the flow, let's add one more decision diagram for each payday. This flowchart outlines each payday decision. First, confirm that your contribution captures the full employer match. Next, transfer money to your high-yield savings account. Then, if you have high-interest debt, make an extra payment to the highest APR balance. If you do not, invest according to your plan or save toward specific goals. After that, verify that your buffer meets at least 1 month of expenses. If it does not, route more to savings before escalating investments. Finally, review your budget and goals and repeat the cycle. Now, let's recap the key ideas. To summarize, first, you must track every dollar, because you cannot save what you do not measure. Second, prioritize eliminating high-interest revolving debt, which provides a guaranteed return. Third, reduce fixed costs to unlock durable cash flow. Fourth, pay yourself first by capturing the employer match and building an emergency fund. Finally, automate the process so default actions drive progress. As we close, here's how you can stay engaged and support the channel. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, please like the video, share it with a friend who needs a financial reset, and subscribe for more content on building wealth. In the comments, tell us your biggest spending leak and the single action you will take this week. See you in the next video.